Okay, cover lesson, unit 6.4.4, Economics IGCSE. 6.4.4 are policies to achieve balance of payments stability. Please review balance of payments. Yep. And we are looking for stability of balance of payments. Well, there are a range of policies available to achieve balance of payments stability. We must look at those. And we must gauge how effective they might be. If you're curious about the soundtrack, it's Julia Kent with Imbalance. We are looking at trade imbalance. Now, I did manage to miss Halloween, so there's a Halloween hat for you all. Alright, so trade imbalance. Well, this is the situation where we have a trade deficit. The trade deficit could result from people changing to imports as the economy expands. As people get richer, they will have more disposable income, and there is a tendency that they will buy more of imports. However, most often, it's usually a symptom of slow economic growth. Have a little read. I'm not sure if I like that music. But anyway, when more money is paid for imports, then less is spent in the domestic economy. This can lead to a decline of domestic industry, cutting back of domestic production, and that could increase unemployment. The exchange rate will fall and the currency depreciate. This would make imports more expensive and could domestically lead to inflation. Now, to pay for the deficit, money may need to be borrowed from overseas. Money must flow out to pay the loan, and there would be interest charges. This could harm economic growth. We got the message. I heard it on the airwaves. The politicians are now DJs. The broadcast was spreading. Station to station, like an infection across the nation. You know you can't stop it when they start to play. You can't get the way. The politics of dancing. The politics of feeling good. The politics of movement. Oh, this message understood. The politics of dancing. The politics of feeling good. The politics of movement. Oh, this message understood. Under pressure. Yes, we're counting on you. Not what you say, just what you do. It's in the paper. It's on the TV. The application is just the fire. Oh, well, you know you can't stop it when they start to play. You gotta get on the way. The politics of dancing. The politics of feeling good. The politics of movement. Oh, this message understood. Well, what could be done to correct a trade deficit? Well, as we know the look, we could introduce trade barriers. You will remember some of these: quota, um, tariff, yes. We could raise the interest rate could you give me a definition of what a central bank is, please? What is a central bank? What are its functions? What is monetary policy? How would raising the interest rate affect the economy? We could use a contractionary fiscal policy. What would we do to government spending? And what would we do to taxation? Actually, if you're on a floating exchange rate, you might be wise to do nothing, for it is self-correcting. Pumpkins. Well, trade surplus. Trade surplus. How can a trade surplus be problematic? Trade deficit, yeah, you're a little bit in the minus, but trade surplus, it seems like we're in a good position. Well, actually not, because political pressure could be exerted from other countries. Currently, there's a trade war going on primarily between China and the USA, and one of the things that the United States don't like is the persistent trade surplus of the Chinese. Now, a persistent trade surplus is also a symptom of rapid growth. The economy could be at risk of overheating, and that could lead to recessionary pressure. Now, while export firms gain from trade, as the more goods flow out of the country, local prices will rise and you will get domestic inflation. Now, also, the demand for currency will exceed supply. So the value of the currency appreciates, and then eventually the nation would become uncompetitive in terms of exports. I'm not so sure of the pumpkin song. Okay, no music this time. What could be done to correct a trade surplus? You could remove your trade barriers. You could lower your interest rates. You could use an expansionary fiscal policy. What would be an example of an expansionary fiscal policy? Alternatively, if you use on the floating exchange rate, you may be wise to do nothing, for the exchange rate should correct the trade surplus. Okay, ping. What to do next? Well, have a look at your textbook. We're using the complete edition, complete economics third edition. Ping. I'd like you to read pages 465 to 472. Read them slowly, read them thoroughly, read them again quickly, and then add to any notes you've taken. With this particular textbook, I would pay attention when the text is in bold. Make sure you understand those concepts. And I'd like you to begin activity 6.11. This is on page 474, and I'd like you to finish it for homework. I'd also like you to look at my school because I will have added it as a homework task.